Welcome to the Pool of Light podcast with me, Neil Meekin, and I'm in the beautiful Delamere forest in Cheshire, where I am walking with today's guest, the amazing Claire Lewis from Baltic Ventures, who I'm very jealous of, who actually lives in the forest, as she laughs. And yeah, I've got the train over here and we're just walking through the beautiful woods. It's a stunning morning. Again, continuing the theme of doing these interviews, walking in nature. So before I introduce Claire, I will just give a little bit of an overview and a bit of a sense of how we became connected. So as many of you know, I lived in New Zealand for a long time and came back in 2021. When I got back, I moved down to London for a few months and then wanted to get back to Liverpool. And I got a job, weirdly, with a Danish innovation consultancy called Meekin to run a program in Merseyside as an innovation program director. And through that, I got connected to Claire through some research I was doing. And at the time, you were working for Form, I think it was. You were consulting.
Doing some consulting, yeah.
Yeah, and we connected. And you were with Kat, which is another lady that we know we're still connected with. And then from there, we just connected, and it was just really interesting because that first conversation, I really felt something. And then we just met again quite a few times and have these conversations, and it was just like the conversations that we had, what I thought I was meeting you for.
Something completely different.
It was something completely different, but different in a way that it was like, that's who I really am, you know, and it's very rare to be able to speak on that level in a very genuine, authentic way. And I'm sure these themes will unfold as the interview goes on. But yeah, welcome, Claire.
Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me to chat with you.
No, you've been a really key person for me, and like a connection while I've been back in Liverpool and Merseyside, and you really enjoyed our chats, and you know those subtle connections are still there, and you've really supported my family constellations work while I've been here in Liverpool. And yeah, it's interesting because now as we're speaking here, I'm about to leave Liverpool and go fully nomadic for a year and step over this threshold into something completely different. And you're also close to doing the same. So
not quite
what I'm doing.
Not quite as extreme. But yeah, I'm definitely in a liminal place and in a shift that feels very slow and measured, and that's okay.
That is okay.
Yeah.
Which for people who know you, who'll be listening to this, who work in certain entrepreneurial circles, that's actually countercultural to go slow.
It's been really interesting because I put a LinkedIn post up that I made the decision to step down from my role at Baltic Ventures, and I wrote everything in the post that there is to say. It's just, nothing left out. And I must have had 100 people come to me and ask the same question, which is what's next? What's next? And by the 100th one, I was starting to get a bit weary. I don't know. I don't know what's next. But yeah. But I'm just not someone who needs to know.
That's quite a profound statement, and I'm going to open up that a little bit more in a little bit, because we're just starting the interview, I want to give people a sense of who is Claire Lewis. You know, when you talk about Baltic Ventures, because there'll be people who'll be listening to this, they'll be like, what is Baltic Ventures? So tell me a little bit about, and the listeners a little bit about Baltic Ventures, but also you. Like, who's Claire? Like, CEO?
Well, they're two different questions. Which one do you want me to answer?
Oh.
First, should I start with what Baltic Ventures is?
Start with what Baltic Ventures is, and then say who Claire is, and then we'll stick with Claire rather than Baltic Ventures, please.
Okay. So Baltic Ventures is a not-for-profit organisation that's based in the Baltic Triangle in Liverpool.
Yeah.
I co-founded it about 2 or 3 years ago with a few other Liverpool peeps. we're backed by an investment from the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority, and we are a tech accelerator and an angel syndicate. So we work with early stage digital tech companies that are at a sort of pre-seed level, help them accelerate their growth and raise seed funding, and also our angel syndicate invest. So we're an investment organization, growth organization, innovation organization.
And so it runs on a cohort-based program. Is this the third or the fourth? That's just
the third.
Just the third, yeah.
Yeah. We do other programs as well, but our kind of flagship accelerator program is an annual program. We open for applications every May for wanting to hear from kind of pre-seed companies that know they're going to need
support,
VC backing at some point. So it's kind of to get them on that pathway. And then the program kicks off in September every year.
Yeah, it's amazing to see that in the city, because one of the things that I noticed after living and working around the world for such a long time and coming back to Liverpool was the lack of support for this type of
and it's important to note, like it's, you know, this is not for every entrepreneur kind of startup at all. This is specifically for those that see themselves on a kind of high growth pathway where they're going to need VC backing, which means there's a big market that they're looking for, you know, potential multi-million-pound exit in the future. So it's a very specific type of company, but those companies need a specific type of support. And like you say, it kind of wasn't really in the city region. And like, so some of my co-founders have built and exited companies like this in Liverpool. There was a lot of pull for them to kind of go to London or kind of, you know, move outside the area. So it's like, how do we build the networks, the connections, and the kind of like it's like a magnetic pulling talent, entrepreneurial talent investment into Merseyside, rather than how it has been in the past, which is like people feeling they need to leave to access that. But I think we're also in a very different time now. Post-COVID has been it's one of those kind of program disruptors where, okay, everyone's kind of like gone through a period where they've realized we don't have to do things the same way anymore. And so I think a lot of entrepreneurs are realizing they don't have to kind of like do the grind in London, and kind of they can actually have a life. In fact, they need to have a life.
They need a life
to sustain themselves through what, you know, it takes to build a high growth company. So, as long as you can kind of build the right teams, you can. There's a lot more flexibility about where high growth companies can be located. So,
yeah, it's a fascinating time to be alive. The COVID thing is really interesting because, you know, we zoom out and look at that as an event, but not an event as like as a single point in time. It was a process of how that shifted so many different aspects of culture, mindset, understanding.
I mean, so I guess this is a sort of a theme that we'll get into in a bit more detail, but this sense that we're entering a major shift in humanity right now.
Yeah.
And you need pattern disruptors to facilitate that.
Okay, define pattern disruptors.
I think that a lot of humans, especially in Western societies, just live in, they're just like programs, you know? It's like everything from the way that we kind of hoon through our day-to-day lives to the expectations that we sort of unconsciously adopt. So whether it's their day-to-day lives or how they think that their lives should be. I mean, so many people think, I'll go to school and go to university, and then I'll meet someone and I'll get married and I'll have a job and I'll have 2 kids and then I'll get a pension, you know, and it's like
scripts.
Yeah. And, you know, where are they in that. And yeah, I think a lot of us, I mean, all of us are programmed in different ways to kind of, and there's something about what we are entering into now that's about letting go of those programs that have had us. It's part of a veil, I guess. It's like you're kind of going through life unconscious,
Yeah.
not really present to
Yeah.
what actually is. And I think that's probably part of the reason why people use so many pharmaceuticals, you know, like antidepressants and all these different, let's numb ourselves through this
Yeah.
experience. It's not really living, is it?
No, I mean, there's many different reasons for that. I have these conversations a lot, and yeah, if there's a need for numbing, okay, well, what's underneath that?
Yeah.
But having an awareness that there's an opportunity to change.
Yeah.
Because part of the script of the conditioning, I believe, is that like there's authority and guidance from outside you, but like when we tune in to ourselves and we do the work and we work through and understand where these patterns, where they come from intergenerationally, from our society, from our peers, from education, but we can actually change those.
Yeah.
And tune into a deeper place.
Well, what you start to become present to as you so I've been on a kind of like a personal transformation journey for about 35 years now.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. And I feel like in the last 4 or 5 years, I've kind of entered a new space on that journey up until the first 30 years.
So there's quite a cattle there. So I'm gonna stick with this first 30 years because one of the things I like to understand about people is, okay, what's got you to this point? And we can't cover 30 years in the next half an hour.
We don't need to either.
No, we don't need to. But to give a sense of like an overview of some of the themes, because like when you say personal transformation, what I believe that you mean in this context is that you've done a serious amount of inner psychological, spiritual work, deconditioning, working through trauma. Like, yeah, that's what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Well, over to you.
Yeah. Where do you want to start at the beginning? Like kind of.
Yeah, well, I say like when, because there's going to be things that you're going to share here that people who are listening to this, who know you, may not have known about you before. And so like, I'd love you to share about like the visions, like the spiritual aspects of you.
Yeah.
I don't mean related to spirituality in a religious sense, but like being able to tune into something beyond.
Yeah. I mean,
the normal day to day.
Yeah. So I grew up in Cheshire, come from here, in a very regular family, right? So the eldest of 5 kids, and always kind of felt, what am I doing here? Like, who are these people?
You felt out of place?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
Were your siblings and your mum and dad, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Everyone.
Okay. Everyone. Okay.
Everyone. Probably in hindsight was like, and on the spectrum as well, ADHD, all that stuff. So was kind of like just increasingly struggling to sort of like, so yeah. So I think in my teenage years, I started to kind of first began to experience kind of deep depressions. And I can see now, like if life is just easy from the start, doesn't give you an impetus to look outside of what. And so, we started talking about the programming.
Yeah.
If there is nothing that sort of like is that sort of like grit in the oyster, you just follow the program probably, don't you?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't. So
it's a powerful thing you've just said there.
So I was kind of starting to struggle with my mental health. I always did very well at school. I loved school. And actually when school ended and university ended, that's when it got really challenging for me, because I was like, I have no idea how to navigate this society world. Like,
So what was it about the educational environment that you thrived on? Like, was there a structure to it?
I
Was
think
there
I just love ideas, thinking,
learning?
learning.
Okay.
So I kind of always taught myself. And actually, I think I was probably channeling a lot of stuff because I would ace every exam and I would literally just know all the answers. I think I was just channeling a lot of stuff.
Okay, so it's coming through you
Yeah.
rather than being
Yeah.
embedded into. Yeah.
So it was just really easy for me. But the first kind of like, so I think kind of like started to struggle with my mental health, feeling just having all these feelings I didn't know what to do with, kind of started me to want to look for what tools are there, or kind of, and it was it wasn't like, you didn't have the internet. We didn't have any books at home. There was the odd book. There was probably like a little section in the local library in Chester, but
Yeah.
you didn't have access to
No, I understand.
any of the kind of. So I was brought up a Catholic as well.
Mm.
So that was a very strange experience because I used to sit in the church and just like, this is not how it was supposed to be. Like, there was something in me that was like, had a sense of knowing and familiarity, but then the other part going, I think they've got this all wrong. like what is happening here? So the first kind of trigger for me was, I was in Chester one afternoon. It was almost a weekend. I was 16, and there were some Hare Krishnas in Chester.
Oh yeah.
And they were giving out books on reincarnation, right? So I was like, okay, took this book and I started reading it, and it was like bush, like this sort of like gate just opened in my sort of consciousness. And I was like, I remember it all now. And all this stuff started flooding in.
Love it.
So I started getting huge amount of downloads. I mean, it's a long time ago now, so I can't remember the details, but I remember suddenly remembering, I'm here for a reason. I have a purpose. I have a job to do. And 2012 is the date. Right? So I'm like, okay. And then the next sort of 7 years after that was basically a process of feeling completely invalidated and questioning my entire like experience, because there was no one that I met or that, that sort of helped me validate that or
orientate yourself to it. Yeah. So just so there's a couple of things here that, again, just to give a bit of context to certain words, when you're saying downloads, you're not downloading something from the internet.
No, because you didn't have the internet.
You're downloading information of a higher nature through you.
Yeah,
and
it's like,
that's what you mean by download.
Yeah, and for me, the experience is I suddenly just know something, like it kind of like arrives in my sort of consciousness awareness.
Yeah.
In the same way as if someone kind of shows up and gives you some news, it's like, it's that.
Just know.
You just know. It's like a truth. It's like, it's got a certain resonance and kind of clarity to it.
Yeah, it lands in a very specific way.
Yeah. So it's very different than you just sort of musing on your own kind of, or extending imagination. It's like it's something that you receive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
So then, because having these experiences, coming out of the education system, like you say, you come out of university, you're like, whoa, like,
what next?
There's the invalidation. So like, because what I want to understand is like that trajectory from there, because there'd be people who'd be listening to this, and I was one of those people in my 20s. I'm having these experiences.
Yeah.
I'm a commercial banker. It's like, what the fuck is going on? But there was no way to really orientate myself until I met certain people at a certain point where, like, yours was the Hare Krishnas. I'm sure they chewed your ear off for an hour before they gave you the book.
I mean, literally, they gave me the book and that was it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Because normally it's like, here's the bag of a Gita. By the way, give us a donation and I need to speak to you for like half an hour.
I was 16, so I think they just had a pile of books. And
seen you coming.
Yeah. I can't remember anything else about it other than I've probably still got the book somewhere.
But it's important to note, because there'll be people who are operating within corporate environments or in scripted environments that are having these experiences.
Yeah.
Where even now it's like taboo, or like, whoa, what's happening? Like, I'm in the wrong place. Whereas, you're what I call a way shower. Like you were on this a long time ago. So what was your professional trajectory that you were on outside uni to now?
So around the same time as I met the Hare Krishnas, one of the things that I decided is I want to be head of the Bank of England or head of the civil service, right?
Just low expectations of your own. Yeah, okay. I love your ambition, Claire.
When I left university, I applied to both the civil service and the Bank of England and didn't get in. But I had my backup option was to be an accountant. So I got a job with a firm called Arthur Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
And worked in the city. So they were like the best accounting firm of the day until they collapsed, famously. And I never wanted to be an accountant because my dad was. So there was always this kind of like,
Grit.
well, yeah. And also I was quite rebellious. But anyway, someone had given me runes by this point. So I think I must have met. Actually, I started reading tarot cards around I was 16. So I think I had a few of my girlfriends were kind of like starting to play with like tarot cards and things like that. And what I realized was that that opened up a world for me. Like I could just read them. So, and then I think another girlfriend gave me some runes. So I had a few little tools at this point, right? And a little bit of kind of community, I guess, to start to play with these things, if you like. But yeah, so I kind of started working as an accountant in the city in London, and it was awful. It was the loneliest time of my life. I was miserable. I mean, I can see now I need kind of countryside and nature around me. So living in a big city was just hard, and losing a lot of the community that you had at university and school. Yeah. And suddenly this sort of weird loneliness of working life, and it was just a really difficult time. So I kind of like held on for dear life, but I was like, right, I've got to qualify as an accountant, and then I go traveling for a year. That was the sort of my carrot that I dangled in front of me. And so in 2000, I went traveling for a year, and I literally had gone to the travel agent. It was on one of those, in the days where you could just buy a round the world ticket for 500 quid, right?
Just the flights, yeah.
Which would, you could just stop at multiple places.
Absolutely.
And I remember I'd gone into the travel agent and I was like, what tickets do you have? And she was like, what about this one? And I was like, okay, I'll go there. And we just sort of like, boom, done. And it started in Bangkok. So got a flight to Bangkok, and Thailand actually has always been a really special place for me. I found that over the years when things have been hard, I've often gravitated back there. There's something there that just brings me back to life. Yeah. So I get a flight to Bangkok, and I get off the flight and I'm like, where do I go next? I'll get a train to Chiang Mai. So I did that, and I got to Chiang Mai, and I found it was those innocent days where you literally, no one had mobile phones, or the internet was just coming.
Still in its infancy.
But it was very much, yeah. And I was staying in this little guest house, and there was a lovely community there. I met this wonderful little Canadian woman who we became friends with, and there was a sign for Reiki training. I was like, I have no idea what this is, but I'm going to do it.
And did you do your Reiki training back then in Chiang Mai?
So I did my Reiki training, and it was like, boom, just opened up my energy fields for about a week after. It was like these like winds were just blowing around my body. I mean, I was just like, holy fuck, like what's happened here? And that whole year ended up, I mean, it was mixed in with sort of like family stuff, and my mum got very sick and I had to go back. So nothing turned out how I planned. She got better.
But did you leave that trip prematurely? Did you have to?
At one point, yeah. So I'd got as far as Australia at this point, and I got a phone call from my dad to say, Mum's got a brain tumour. She's having an operation next week. And I was like, I'm coming back.
So you have to almost like New Zealand's probably fair, but almost at the furthest point on the trip.
I missed New Zealand.
And
I missed New Zealand, and I missed Easter Island, and then had to sort of, But anyway, but that whole trip ended up being sort of opening me up to. So I carried on with the Reiki, was meeting other people, and I think what was particularly profound for me was a new level of connection with nature. So when you're traveling and you're going to places like Fraser Island, the Atacama Desert, and which is just like, it sort of opened up something in my kind of soul that just was like, I remember remembering something. So when I came back at the end of that year, I decided to start training as a naturopath. And
I don't ever remember you saying about the naturopath.
yeah,
Wow.
so I'm a trained naturopath. I did that for 4 years.
Oh, clear.
I also trained with a guy called Jack Temple, who was a very famous like healer dowser.
Yeah, I've heard of Jack Temple.
And he treated like Princess Diana quite famously. So he was in his 80s at that point. So yes, I spent 3-4 years really intensely. I was basically kind of went back to working in finance, but then spending every weekend doing these kind of practitioner training in different areas.
So it feels like there was a transition happening, and there was a blending of two worlds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And were you able to share with the people within finance, that environment that you're in, what you were doing at the weekend? Yeah.
Some of them. And I kind of got comfortable with being kooky Claire.
No comment.
Yeah.
So how long was that period for you doing your training back in finance? Were you in London at this point, or were you up north?
I think I was in London for about 2 or 3 years, and then I was like, I can't do this anymore. So as I was going more into this sort of world, I was becoming too sensitive to be still living in London. So I remember at some point it kind of all came to a head. I was like, I can't. My energy was just shutting down. I was like, this is just too much. So I just called my dad and said, can I come home? So I think I was about 28 at that point.
Was that quite an emotional thing to do, to say, Dad,
No.
No,
I think I'd been so miserable that I just needed to escape.
Yeah, just done. It's hard to explain to people who haven't lived in the city, especially someone who is a sensitive or is working and becoming more sensitive, that it's just it becomes impossible to be in that environment. It's just
I remember, because I used to get the tube to work, and by the time I actually arrived at the office, I was like, I am done for the day. I am done for the day. And I was kind of like reaching that point in my career as well, where you're starting to manage people and run teams. So therefore, you're the boss. So there was just this very lonely kind of, friends were getting married and settling down from sort of, earlier in life. And I just was like, this is not
for you.
This is not working. This is not working. So I came home and I was like, I'll just take a bit of a backward step. Because there's always been, like, I think when you're academically gifted and you've always done very well, you kind of assume that you're just going to, there's a part of you just thinks, I should be doing well at work or whatever.
That word should.
Yeah. Which no one really had said to me other than myself. Like, sometimes we say these words unconsciously to ourselves, and like, there's an imaginative person saying it who isn't actually. Anyway. And so I kind of took a little bit of a step back. I got a contract with Barclays in Knutsford, working in their sort of tech and finance area. And it was around that time that I started to develop my idea. And it was through my training as well in naturopathy, which I was still doing. I started to see an idea for a business. So when I was 29, 30, I started my business that I had for about a decade. So that's kind of how I got into the space I am now.
Into the tech space, you mean, with Baltic Ventures, you mean?
Yeah, that was the beginning of that. So yeah, and it was in natural beauty.
Natural beauty?
Yeah, sustainable beauty. So it was that early, sort of just past the .com boom, and I could see that the internet, I mean, it was ridiculous to even, like, was going to be a kind of a key distribution
of product information. Yeah.
But that was new back then. I mean, this is the irony of it. I remember people saying, do you think people are going to shop online? Do you think that'll be a thing? And I was like, yeah, I do.
Look at us now.
So that was kind of like then my sort of segue into entrepreneurship. So this is around 2005, 2004.
2004, 2005.
Yeah.
And you were living in Cheshire?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I'm holding this perspective of like what environment that you're in as you're doing these things. When I say environments, like where you are located, what's going on around you. You know, you're not in a city no more, and how
Yeah.
that can support what's happening.
Yeah.
I want to ask you the question about because entrepreneurship. Because I was a commercial banker for many years, and then when I moved to New Zealand, that's when I really got into entrepreneurship and being involved in New Zealand, where I was for 7 years in that space. And because of like some of the things we've talked about, the more mystical aspects of what we talked about, how I observed entrepreneurship, which is maybe, you know, taking ideas
Mm.
and turning them into products and services.
Yes.
I see that as a magical
Yes.
practice.
Yeah.
I don't mean magic in the sense of pulling rabbits out of a hat.
But it kind of is. This is the thing, is that I think from my experience of being an entrepreneur was like, it's almost like you feel something in the field.
Yeah,
It's like, I sense what's possible, and you pull it through into reality.
100%.
And that's what I've always loved about entrepreneurship. It's like it is a form of alchemy. I know you love that word. I love that word, actually. I do love that word.
But it does explain.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I mean, I've studied the occult for many, 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 many years in different forms. And I remember the first time I came across, I think it's possibly 2014, I came across design thinking as a process. I was like, there's just manifesting. Obviously, there's more to it than that. It's not as simple as just like visualize something. You know, there's a process to it. But I was like, this is just like practice and magic and manifestation.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It's just that was my perception, and I fully believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's kind of probably what has been my fascination and sort of like what's held me in this space for this long. Because obviously I sold my business in sort of 2013. I can't remember now. I did it in two tranches. So it was like 2011, 2013. And then ended up sort of then going into working with founders and startups.
Consultancy and advisory, yeah.
So my first role was running an investment bank that worked with impact ventures, so health tech, ed tech, and helping them raise capital. So it was around the time that impact investing wasn't quite a thing, but it was becoming a thing. So that's quite an interesting space to be in, and seeing that kind of emerging thought area in the sort of investing space. And then I got asked to apply for a role to lead something called Tech North, which, again, you know, it was something that was sensed in the field. And again, I got to be entrepreneurial doing that. And so that kind of, very quite quickly, I ended up in this sort of space where, because I've always been fascinated in systems, particularly how finance and technology kind of creates and interacts with systems and cultures and people. And I think that's kind of was probably part of the, you know, if I look back at connecting the dots, why did I go from there to there to there?
There was a thread.
There was a thread, which is in the same way that if someone loves cars, you know, they'll get fascinated with an engine and want to pull it apart. Yeah. For me, it was the same thing with kind of financial and political and technological systems. Like how does all this infrastructure intersect, and how does it actually work, and what outcomes does it drive into society, and how does it affect people and humanity and the earth? That's kind of been a sort of, I guess, an area that's always propelled me to sort of like understand more how does this all work. So I can't remember how we got onto that. We were talking about entrepreneurship, yeah. But the other part of it is kind of recognizing that the entrepreneur, the founder, is the magician, the alchemist in all of this, right? Without them, this new what is of potential can't come into being. They're the conduit for that.
Okay, now we're talking. So
now we're talking.
This is the this is not a segue, but it's like because this is how I operate. You know, this is my worldview, and this is why I work with a company that obviously you're a non-executive director of, Farm Urban.
Yeah.
Is because, you know, again, I sort of connected you to this being a way shower, like, and bringing in the new, and like when we say bringing in the new, like, you know, we're in a massive shift within society collectively, and we need what you call entrepreneurs to help birth, almost like a midwife, these new
Yes.
realities into being. But it's not about, well, for me, not against people who build apps for pets, as an example, but it's bringing in these new systems, helping the old systems to sort of break down in a certain way, and then bringing the new into being. So these certain types of entrepreneurs, and because this connects back into you, because your time at Baltic Ventures is coming to an end. It's been your baby. You brought it into, again, almost, I use that word, midwife, bring it into being.
Yeah.
And it can stand on its own 2 feet now, and you're going to move into something new. Well, we don't know what that is yet. You don't need to.
Or maybe I won't. I mean, look, so, in this shift, up until now, when I've kind of got shifted from one thing into another, it's often been accompanied by an internal collapse, like
within you.
Yeah, like, I can't do this anymore.
Burnout.
I'm burnt out. This is just, it just becomes overwhelming. And it's been, I guess it's a milestone for me that absolutely has not been how it has been with Baltic Ventures. Just been a growing knowingness that my work here is done and it's time for me to step back. And there was a period where I was feeling that and thinking, and I don't feel anything else. Like, maybe that's me done. Maybe there's nothing else for me to do. I don't feel that anymore, but it's definitely a very slow emergence that I still don't know what's emerging, if anything.
So we touched on this before we did the interview, because I often do like a warm-up conversation with people who I interview, and it's like that sense of, I don't know, because you talked about, like, and you put a LinkedIn post that people were asking you a question, but okay, Claire, what's next? But the reality is, we don't know. Like,
no one ever really knows.
No one ever really knows.
No one ever really knows. But I think humans like the certainty of at least believing that they do know.
Because it's a really profound position and center of gravity to operate from, where you're able to get up in the morning and, like, don't know what's going to happen that day to a degree. And so there's 2 things that come to mind: trust, and surrendering.
Yes. And I those 2 words have carried me through, God, some of the most challenging, heartbreaking, difficult times of my life, because I guess I'm a person of faith, not in the way that
not a religious faith.
No, but then my personal religion, I guess, right? And I think that's a kind of a key to transformation, is that you kind of and letting go of the ego that thinks that they've kind of they're controlling it all, and that it's all
kind of clearly not.
Because they're really not. It's like this. I guess that's been a personal mantra for me. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to get through today. I don't feel that anymore, I have to say. I'm in a very different place in my life, but there certainly have been years and decades where just trust, surrender, allow whatever is coming through you right now to do that. It's when we fight with it that it kind of doesn't shift.
So you talk about a really powerful analogy of the canoe.
Yeah.
And I'd love you to share that with the people who are listening, about the canoe analogy, about connected to what you're talking about right now, about the trust and the surrender, where...
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone comes here with their own blueprint, right?
100%, that's mine. And I believe that.
I guess that blueprint sort of flows through us like a river does, right?
Yeah.
So our life is basically just rowing your, what do you do with a canoe? You don't row it, you paddle it, don't you? You paddle
your canoe.
Paddling your canoe down your kind of river. And it's how you navigate that and allow that life force, that stream, that flow to kind of
guide you
and steer you and operate through you, right? And if you fight it, resist it, you're just
all kinds of trouble. Yeah.
You're just making life harder for yourself. So But that's kind of where the trust and the surrender is. If you're sitting in your kayak or your canoe, what is that? You're centered, but you're present, and you're kind of like, you're navigating kind of what's coming up, and you're moving your body so that you kind of stay balanced. But and that's, I think, the sort of the shift that we can kind of have in our internal how we navigate life. Stop. Most human beings fight life, right? I don't like this. I don't want this happening. This is awful. And that's what a lot of people are doing to the outside right now, right?
Mm.
A lot of people are going, the world is terrible. It's an awful place. It needs to change. And I think the invitation is, what is it about it that you're resisting? Like, in the same way that when someone dies, when you're experiencing terrible illness, the only way I've found to deal with that is to surrender to it and accept it and go through it, right? And so it's exactly the same on the collective level right now. And the more that you fight what is going on outside because your ego says, I don't like that, you're just resisting it and holding it in place. If we want to transform the world, which is the invitation we have right now, it comes from inside. And so if something is kind of like in the collective is causing you pain, you have to start with yourself.
I'm laughing because it's deeply profound what you're sharing, because that's exactly how, like, I was taught with constellations work, is that, like, when you react to something that's happening out there, no matter whether it's within your locale or whether it's in a wider world, where does that exist within you? And you start within you. So if you want to change, I mean, you can go to like Africa and work for an NGO as an example, or do certain things because you've got a really strong belief about something. But if it's impacting in a certain way, then there's an aspect of that in you. Is that what you're saying? Just so we're on the same page. Yeah. And so you can change from within yourself, which is empowering, really, because the only thing that you can really control is you.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing, though, how many people would fight you on that point? I mean, like, there's not many people I can have this conversation with that don't get triggered by that. Are you saying that the world is okay and it doesn't need changing, and that, like, they lose their shit?
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a consistent experience?
It's a common one.
Maybe I don't experience that so much because I'm actually sort of selective about who I share certain things with because of, I mean, not to say that I'm right in any way, I'm not saying that, but it's a challenging conversation to have because it's a paradigm shift in how we view the world. But it exists because if you explore and research and connect and speak to more traditional cultures, like I've had a really, lucky experience of spending a lot of time around Maori in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And read a lot about Aboriginals in Australia. And that's just how they see the world.
Well, there's so part of this shift that's happening right now in the collective is like a re-emergence of our original blueprint and template of humanity.
100%.
So, so we started this walk at the snake, yeah?
Yep.
So there was a point in time, so that snake, so just...
So when we say the snake, when we talk the snake, it's not so abstract. Me and Claire started this podcast in Delamere Forest. There's
the Gruffalo walk.
It's the Gruffalo walk in Delamere Forest, and there's the Gruffalo snake that's wrapped around a tree.
Yes.
That's where we started.
Yes.
So when Claire refers to the snake, that's what she's referring to.
So basically, when the earth first started, right, it was like the Garden of Eden. Like, we were living as the, Aborigines were, in this beautiful sort of communion with nature and the earth, and all the different kind of beings. And then there came a point in time where the snake, which is like an embodiment of the goddess energy, the feminine, the divine feminine, the kundalini, was cut off from I call it an operating system, but it's like sort of the underpinning architecture that creates our reality on Earth, right? So what do I mean by that? So, for example, one of the things that I do is I visit a lot of sacred sites around the world.
You visit in person to go and do some certain work, energetic work, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was in So just a story that kind of illustrates what I'm trying to say. I was in Delphi, and
In Greece.
yes, so Delphi was originally a goddess cult. So it would have been like the women priestesses would kind of attend and protect this sacred site that was Delphi. They would be able to commune with Gaia, and actually the high priestess was Gaia, and sort of bring through messages for the communities that lived around. And then there came a point in time, so it's very interesting, the myth as it has emerged. So when Apollo was born, he sat next to Gaia in Delphi on his mother's lap, and he killed the snake. And then every 8 years, at the Temple of Apollo and the cult that emerged around that would reenact Apollo killing the snake. Now, Venus has an 8-year cycle around the sun.
Mm.
So what we see is this kind of like, we went from this sort of like, I guess, matriarchal kind of culture that sort of looked after the earth, protected the balance between the inner world and the outer world.
Right relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have these kind of patriarchal, we'll call them religions, that they manifest in different ways. And this is just one story. You'll see a sort of like different, even the Adam and Eve story is a little bit of a kind of that.
Yeah.
And then kind of rituals embedded into these cultures to then reinforce that. So the snake being killed every 8 years, George and the dragon slaying the dragon, all these things. So the dragons, the snakes, the kind of all representative of this kind of primal energy. And that's why we're so afraid of sex and kind of like sexual energy, and have such a sort of distorted relationship with that. It's all kind of comes from this cutting. And what we're at now is this point in time where there's a reintegration.
Why?
Of those energies.
Why is that happening? Because the question's been with me as you've been sharing, and I've been dying to ask you, especially because of the way that you obviously developed your ability to systems think and have a systems lens on life.
Yeah.
What is happening, and why is that happening now? I mean, I can assume, I've got my own views, but what's yours?
Why is it happening now?
Yeah. Because I mean,
so if you ask an astrologer, they will probably give you the most accurate answer. So basically, the Earth, there's something called the precession of the equinoxes.
Absolutely, I understand. Yeah.
Where the Earth kind of has a 26,000 year cycle, and so every 13,000 years is kind of like a shift. And so also things like people who've written about and researched the Kali Yuga, the Yugas, yeah. Right? So basically, there are writers and philosophers at the moment who've said that the Kali Yuga ended in March this year.
It ended in March this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Significant.
Yeah. And we are, shifting now into the age of Aquarius, which is so the Earth kind of moves from different ages. So yeah, so every 2,000 years, the Earth shifts into a different age. So we've just been in the age of Pisces. We're moving into the age of Aquarius now, but we're at this kind of 12, 13,000 year point where we're now going into an upward shift. So in the same way that, it's all about breath, right? Inhale, exhale.
The tides.
Yeah. Everything's kind of in a cycle.
Well, that's a very important thing to know, because as a worldview and a way of looking at, how life evolves and moves and changes, is that it's cyclical. It's not linear.
Yeah.
Which is, you're very prevalent in the Western scientific paradigm, that it's linear, but it's not. It's cyclical.
Yeah.
In everything.
Yeah.
Birth, death.
And the cycle, the circle is the sort of, that's the goddess, right? So when you start to go into a lot of these esoteric elements of a lot of religion, they all talk about this sort of merging of a masculine and a feminine energy, this idea of union.
Yeah.
And we can kind of like, on a very simple level, you see that in a kind of like a relationship. context, but actually it's much, much broader than that. And it's literally, as you start to kind of go down this rabbit hole, which I've been in for decades.
Still in it.
Still in it. We'll always be in it. It's a creational principle. It's a creational principle, and kind of, I mean, I've been in this process now for so long. For a long time, it was about my own kind of healing journey.
Yeah.
But at another point, it shifted about 10 years ago to a collective kind of perspective role, I guess.
Yeah.
Where I started to receive a lot of information about what we're talking about.
Downloads.
Yeah. Yeah. And the shift. And like in the same way that through your life, I don't know if you come across the hero's journey,
Joseph Campbell. Yeah. Mythical.
Yeah. But again, that's a cycle in a human life. But actually, these ages that we go through as humanity, it's just like, if everything is kind of all one and all connected, it's the one kind of like trying out different patterns and, oh, this is fun. Like if we code reality with these kind of blueprints, what's possible? Yeah.
So it's like the one, we call that learning about itself.
Yes.
As life is a reflection of itself.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Because it gets very boring if you're just one. So you have to pretend that you're other and see what happens. And you forget.
It's important to mention because you've touched on it a few times, but like, because I was confused, like in my late 20s, even early 30s, like mythology, like what is it? Like, why does it come up all the time in different readings? And you mentioned Joseph Campbell there, and these motifs that exist in many, many, many different civilizations, cultures, both contemporary and antiquated, of these just consistent myths, stories that are talking about truths that are happening at that time culturally, that.
Yeah. And also sort of like the same myths told slightly differently across different cultures.
Yeah. Same but different.
Same but different, yeah. Supposedly cultures that should never even have known that they existed, but they probably were, there were connections. I mean, there's a lot about what we currently understand about the history of civilization that isn't very accurate.
No.
At all.
No, I subscribe to that view.
I said that I've been to a lot of sites. Like, there's just too much that's like actual tangible evidence, and that is entirely incoherent between what the scientific community, archaeological communities are kind of taken as. Yeah. I've been to sites where it's just like they're telling a story and you're like, it's clearly not that.
Yeah, it's incongruent.
It's just like because we can only really understand reality through our own programming.
Yeah, what we see, what we hear, which is the conditioning. Yeah,
what can we rationally accept because of what we have been conditioned to accept? There's not many people that can kind of look with a truly open mind and sort of like, there's just so much running in the background that we don't even realize that limits are.
Yeah, I'm saying with that because like there's a belief in me, and what I've learned from my teachers and my education is, how we see the world shapes the world. So it's almost like we're creating this existence from those very things that you're talking about. And so it's almost like we need others that are outside our normal realm of seeing things to help us open up. And that's why constellations is really powerful. We call it widening the lens.
Yeah.
Because then once you can widen the lens, you can accept more truths. And by being able to do that, then your outer reality shift because you're operating from a different place. But if you do that collectively as a society as part of this evolutionary process that you're talking about, well,
Yeah. And so,
it's huge.
You go back to COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, for some people that was a terrible time, and but you need events like that kind of catapult people out of their sort of
day to day,
like this is the way it is and this is the way it will always be. And then suddenly you have an event like that and you realize, oh, okay, that was like a glitch in the matrix, right? It's like
but it's an opportunity. At the same time, we living certainly in the West, we're living in societies and cultures that we haven't got that constant consistent, unbroken oral thread of
Yeah.
what it means to be in right relation.
Yeah.
Like what would maybe say a traditional community in, say, Africa,
Yeah.
where you've got elders, you got youth, there's initiation, rites of passage, and that
Yeah.
knowledge is being shared. We've lost that. So for all, COVID as an event was an opportunity.
We didn't have
I
the
suspect we
roots
haven't
to.
got the roots or the systems to be able to actually take people throughout. Some people will have, but people to have gone through almost like an initiatory process to open them up and to stay open. Because there's when culture is in a certain way, you could open up. And like I've done this about 5-6 times. I've met certain people, opened up, but then fell back asleep again. Obviously,
Yeah. Okay.
metaphorically speaking.
Which is true. And look, here we are having this conversation. You're a boy from Merseyside, me, a girl from Cheshire.
Council estate and
Yeah. I
North
mean,
Liverpool, yeah, it's
yeah.
mad.
So I think we're both testament to the fact that it's also possible.
I'll touch on it and then I'm going to start to bring it to a close, because it's important that, like, there's been certain people, like there has been in your life. I'm just laughing with the Hare Krishna, but like, at certain points, I was actually reading something on the train coming to see you around, like how at certain points, typically at threshold moments,
Yeah.
and
Someone shows up.
Someone shows up
Yeah.
as almost like a guide, and Joseph Campbell talks about it in The Hero's Journey. But through my life, I can clearly see a pattern where there's been certain threshold moments and someone shows up, typically an elder, and sometimes just someone about a conversation. I got goosebumps now as I'm sharing this, because that would have been similar to yourself, no? And I feel I'm very grateful for that, because like that couldn't or might not happen. It just showed me something that you can trust life.
Yeah. I mean, I think up until my sort of mid-20s, that I remember there was a taxi driver once
Yeah.
that literally a conversation opened up and he sat with me for half an hour, and it was like, that was enough to just give me a little bit, okay, you're not crazy, right? Like this,
Bit of validation.
yeah. It's not just a kinship, It's like, but yeah, I guess sort of coming across the Reiki training, but then for me, there was a woman called Nikki Slade that I met. I was probably 30-ish. Still have contact with her today. She is a kirtan leader and works with voice, but sacred chanting.
Oh, beautiful.
And so I did a lot of work with her over the years. It really helped me open up my sort of voice.
Beautiful.
To sort of, and it the word that I associate with that experience was a process of self-actualization.
Yeah.
So up until then, I'd kind of like been doing my professional life, and then I had the sort of like the spiritual stuff over there, but there was a sort of like I don't know, some kind of like threshold point with her. And then in 2017, when I was starting to have a lot of visions at this point and was really going deep into some kind of very held, sacred kind of time of my life, I guess, I was at a meeting, a place called the Monastery in Manchester, and there were some elders that came from a Kem tribe in Chad, was it Chad or some North African? And then there was another woman who'd come, just felt called to come that day. Anyway, there was a lot of very deep energies that we were working with, and I had a bit of an energetic break. And she took me. This woman that was there took me aside and worked with me, and I'm still working with her today. So she, I don't think I'd be alive today if it wasn't for her, because some of the darkness which we all face, I guess, when you go into this, she helped me navigate that. She's very gifted in being able to, so she can work with you and she can see multidimensionally what's happening.
Yeah,
which helped me navigate and talk with guides and help basically repair and sort of expand my light body and codes and stuff. So yeah, there's been these kind of, it's usually women that have showed up just at the right time.
Yeah, always just at the right time.
Just at the right time.
Yeah, key figures. It's Yeah, I encourage anybody who's listening to this that, as you look back and reflect on your life, whether what we're talking about resonates and whether you can identify certain people that have shown up at a certain time in your life. And I want to bring this to a close now. And I just want to say first, thank you, because what it's, you used the word before and it just really strongly resonated with me. And by walking with you in these woods, it's like a process of remembering, because I'm going through it. Well, I'm definitely in liminal space. I'm definitely in this transition now into like leaving the city, and it can be quite scary. And by having this conversation with you, it's really helped me remember. But I'm trusting that certain people who will listen to this will resonate with some of the messages, and that it helps them to remember who they are, who might be like in a corporate job, or might be a founder in a startup, or a consultant somewhere who work in specific environments and having these experiences and like what's going on. And this has maybe helped them have a little bit of a sort of a sense of a framework, and that there's others out there who have experienced it and have moved through it. So on that particular point, to bring this to a close, someone who is potentially like you, who was like you out there, what advice would you give them?
You really got to look after yourself.
What does that mean?
Like it means, especially as a kind of, a woman, a mother, a wife, and I think it's the same for men too. Like, but you get to a point where you live for others, to be there for others, or even if it's like being the dutiful daughter and when you're starting to kind of go through this journey, it requires you to make space for it, to create, to nourish yourself, right? Otherwise it can
crush you.
Yeah.
It can. Yeah. It really can.
Yeah.
I have been crushed by it. It can crush you.
I mean, look, for me, this has been definitely a cyclical process over 35 years, but the deepest part of that cycle was sort of 2016, 17, 18, 19. And there were 3 years in that where I could barely function. I couldn't work. I had chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. There were weeks where I couldn't leave the house. I had, heavy depression. And I could feel that I was moving something out of me, right? And I just had to keep going. But honestly, there were times where it was like, I can't do this anymore. But I just kept showing up for myself. And I think that's the thing. You have to do that. But I could not have, I couldn't carry on the semblance of a normal life, right?
So you had to create the space for that transformation to take place.
Yeah. It's like, you will hurt yourself if you don't attend to what you need.
What you need, yeah.
And I think we are, and again, women are particularly bad at this. We don't even know what what it means to have needs, right? We're so, you're told don't be selfish. You need to be there for other people. So there was a real kind of quite a journey just to kind of be able to hear what do I need right now, and to allow myself to attend. And it used to be the case that my body have to be like, right, you're not going to listen, right, so you're going to have a burnout.
We're going to stop you.
So that you can't actually do anything, because whereas now I don't need to, life is just so much is easy. It is easy, right? It's easy and joyful. So I think the other thing to say is that there will be times where it maybe feels really dark and heavy, but there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But you have to do the work, and you have to just sit with what is coming through.
Which often is
really hard for people to do, because there's so many, it's so easy to numb and distract. Netflix, food, drugs, drink, busyness, distraction. Our society doesn't support in any way the kind of environment, space that you will need to do that. And it's kind of and everyone from the pharmaceuticals and the doctors and whatever will tell you that you shouldn't and you don't need to, and whatever. But the only way I found to go to heal this is to go through it and into it. You know, it's like, I think there's a Rumi quote that says like, the cracks are where the light come in. You have to,
Absolutely.
you know, and you have to allow yourself to go into those places.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what you do, and you know, there are many amazing people today that can support people through that
100%.
journey.
And I think that's important, is being able to see how someone, I mean, a lot of this is like you said before, like you do this as an individual, but there is also times where it's really useful to be in a collective, to be able to see yourself in relation and to others. And that's why a lot of constellation work I do. Another work that I've done has been in group, but like getting support from someone who has actually been through that process.
Yeah.
Who can hold that in a particular way, that,
Yeah.
because this is how I see sort of my work, and I'm still, you know, there's still a long way to go, but it's becoming an elder,
Yeah.
but not having the pathway to know what it actually means to be an elder within this culture.
Yeah.
And having to relearn it and remember it again to them, be able to
remember is a
pass the
really
rope down to the people who are
a
younger.
really key thing. It's
Remember,
like,
yeah, yeah.
remember, because I think that's the process that's happening now
Remembering
in the West. We are remembering who our indigenous culture, you know, and we will do that
much
through, like, the trees will tell us, and the waters will tell us,
absolutely,
and the sky will tell us, and I think spending time, with other, you know, generosity of other indigenous cultures that have survived, you know, transmissions from those elders, supportive as well. But it, if you are going through this journey, make sure the person who's supporting you has been through it.
yes,
because you don't. The last thing you need is someone who's like attached their Instagram kind of like profile, like as a sort of like a shaman or whatever. You know, you need someone who's lived it and embodied it.
Absolutely.
And that's not necessarily the people that look like, dress like they have.
Well, that's important thing just to sort of touch on. Is like there's no judgment here, but there's it's a bit of a minefield around like just being.
You need discernment.
Yeah. And again, trust your body, like feeling about, okay, is this person right for me at this time?
Yeah.
Profound.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last thing. I'm milking this a little bit more because we've got a bit of the path left in the forest. Because you touched on it, like one of the things that I'm aware of, that I'm hearing, is like how Ireland, you know, because you don't have to go far. You don't have to go to Egypt. You don't have to go to the Amazon. Like a lot of people in Merseyside, for an example, the Northwest, have ancestors from Ireland.
Yeah.
And it's considered by many Indigenous leaders around the world that Ireland is one of the places in the world where there's still a connection and a transmission to the old ways, that just by being on the land,
but
it moves through you, and it's, and I've experienced it, you know, but it's considered a place for that, and it's like it's only over the water.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's accessible.
I mean, so it's interesting. You know, I grew up here in Cheshire, and I could not wait to get away from here when I was like a teenager. I was just like, I had this idea of this sophisticated life. I was going to live in the city, and also as well, growing up, never feeling connected to this like land, which was bizarre, because, you know, my dad is from a lineage of Cheshire farmers. Like, I couldn't be more genetically connected to this land. And so there was after I left the Catholic Church when I was a teenager, I kind of explored the world and different religions. But it's interesting, about 10 years ago, this process that I went through, and then a wonderful woman I met on that journey of coming home almost was a woman called Pamela Young, who had grown up in a spiritualist household in Bolton.
Yeah.
So, you know, everyone worked in the mills, but then at night they'd kind of come together and they'd channel. Like, her mum was a spirit, like a medium.
Yeah.
And her uncle was as well, I think. But what she helped me to see was that it's like, what you described about Ireland, I've experienced in Wales and Scotland.
Yeah,
and here, you know, like, you just have to scratch below the surface and you realise that it never went away.
No, it's there.
It's never went away. But it's just kind of the journey of being able to tap into that frequency again.
Yeah.
And so for me, it really has been a journey of like going away. And I remember I went through a bit of a Sufi phase, and I met a sheikh, and he was like, taught me some kind of, different aspects. And then he was like, but you will go back to Christianity because that's where you were born. And I was like, yeah,
Whatever.
whatever. And I mean, so I would describe myself as an esoteric Christian now.
Yeah.
Which, through the sort of mystical experiences I've had, like a remembering of what my soul remembers as what Christ's teaching was, which isn't what the church talks about, is a sort of derivation of that, doesn't for me embody the
true transmission.
Yeah.
Wow.
But so it's so if you do have family from Ireland and connected to that, then that might be part of your route back.
Part of the route. Yeah. Wow, Claire, we're coming to the end of this. We're coming to the end of the path, and we're coming to the end of this podcast. And it's what I sort of expected and more, where we've gone from a whole wide range of different themes, and it's been a real privilege for me to get this opportunity to share this walk and this conversation with you before I head off, and you're on the precipice of your own threshold. So yeah, thank you, Claire. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Neil. It's been fun.